Ok, ya nada más voy a buscarla. Hi Gerald, I'm going to start now. I'm going to share my screen, but I can't find it now. Can't find. Okay, here it is. Okay. Hi Elida.
Hi, Professor.
I'm going to trying to share my screen. Okay, can you see it, guys? Can you see my screen, my presentation?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, good. Okay, let me just make this presentation mode. This topic is not very difficult, but it does have a lot of terms. I'm sorry, I have to check because someone's coming in and I couldn't. Okay. Let me see. Hi. I'm not sure who came in, but hi. So I was saying that this topic is not very difficult, but you need to like know the terminology. The first one, okay, remember when you studied phonetics and when we studied phonology last week and the week before, that we were talking about phonemes, and phonemes were individual sounds that made up a word, right, when we speak. Besides phonemes, we have morphemes, which are the words. So we're going from sounds to words. And words in our languages, because our words are very different in the languages of the world, they are identified that as the smallest unit of meaning. So you cannot, let's say, divide a morpheme in anything else. So you need to have a meaning for that morpheme. And when you can eliminate everything else from it and you can't divide it more, then that would be what a morpheme is. So let's look at these examples that are very basic. The word cats contains two morphemes, right? Cat, I cannot divide cat, or I cannot eliminate anything from it and still have a meaning. So that is the root word. And then we have an S that is a plural marker. So cat is made up of two morphemes because it has cat and the S. The S has meaning, but it needs to be next to a noun, right? So it is another morpheme. That's why it says cats contains two morphemes. It contains cat plus the S. So I can divide it in two. And S, I can't I can't just say S, but when I put it next to cats, it's going to be a marker of plural, so it has a meaning. The meaning is plural. Let's look at unhappiness. So here we can see that there are three morphemes. How can I divide unhappiness? Okay, I know that I can divide it with unhappy, and then ness. So happy is the root, and then we have a prefix that means not, right? Un means not. So unhappy means not. And ness makes an adjective like happening into a noun. So I can say the unhappiness that I endured during these years. So it's going to be a noun in that case. So this one would be made of the three morphemes. Un has a meaning, which is not. Ness has a meaning, which is that the word is a noun, and happy is the root and it's an adjective. Okay, so we have three, you could see three types of morpheme there. One that is called a bound morpheme, that is meaningful but cannot occur alone. For example, the S or the ness or the un, I cannot just say S or un or ness and mean something. It needs to be next to another, let's say, word or morpheme, to another word, morpheme. A free morpheme has meaning on its own. It doesn't need anything else. Okay, so I can say cat, or I can say happy, and it means something, right? I don't need anything else to it. The root is a morpheme usually, but not always a free morpheme that serves as the building block for other and carries the main meaning of these words, okay, like cat or happy. So that would be the root. Okay, so it says that it's not always a free morpheme. Let's see if we can find examples. Okay, some more examples. So walked, in the case of the word walked, I can divide it in two morphemes. Walk, and it's free, right? And then the ed is going to indicate past tense, but it cannot be alone. I cannot say it and mean something. However, in the word rewrite, um, in the word rewrite, I can, no, not however. So also in the word rewrite, I can see that there are two morphemes, one that is and means to do something again, and write, which has meaning on its own. Give me a second because someone else just came in. Hi, Daniela. I'm just starting with this PowerPoint. Okay. So both of these are bound morphemes, right? They mean something. Again, this one is a prefix, and this one is a marker of past tense, but they cannot stand alone. Okay, where was I? Then we have an example of a free morpheme. So a free morpheme can be book. It can be room. It can be class. It can be most of the things that we talk about. If they are not plural or that they are not verbs, are going to be free morphemes. So I don't need to add anything to it to have a meaning. Then we have the word sunlight, which is a compound, and we're going to see compounds later on. But you know compound words. They are words that have a different meaning when they are together. Sometimes compounds are separated or they can be also in one single word, like in sunlight. Um, so I need both sunlight to get the meaning, but they also can be separated into two different morphemes. So sunlight is going to have one meaning. It's a free morpheme. Sun is going to be a free morpheme, and light is going to be a free morpheme. They each have um, different meanings, but uh, well, sun and light together are going to have, yeah, they are going to be a compound. So in the case of roots, many times we think about like Latin roots, which is the original word. This one is not exactly right because in words that have more than one morpheme, we are going to find, just a second. Hi, Jefferson. I'm going to continue and I'm recording this session so you can listen to the first part. Okay, so in friendship, can we divide friendship? Yes, we can divide it into friend and ship. Now, ship has a different meaning on its own, which is a boat, a big boat, let's say, something that navigates. But here, actually, friendship is another type of morpheme, and it makes the this noun friend, it makes it into another noun, which is friendship. Yes, it makes the noun friend into a different noun and a different meaning. So actually, ship, if I say, what else? What else can we use? Which is compound and uses ship. Um,
Relationship.
Thank you. Thank you. Because see, I didn't have it exactly. Relationship. So we have relation and we have ship. And you can see the that all of them are nouns, but the meaning is different, right? A friend and the friendship, a relation and the relationship. Actually, exactly what does ship mean? Um, where we can look for, because we know that it makes another noun, but I'm wondering what exactly does it mean. I'll look for it. In predict, okay, this one is difficult because we don't know this. We don't know that the root in Latin means to say, and see that it looks a little bit like Spanish, decir. Well, not exactly, but at least it starts with a D. So it comes from the Latin root dicere, which means to say. So to predict is to say before, right? So if we look at this word and we don't know the root, we do know that pre is a prefix, right? Something that changes the word at the beginning that is added to the word. Okay, hi Tiani. something that is a prefix, and but in the meaning to say this is a bound root. Okay, that is what they meant, that not all roots or free morphemes. Yes, not all roots can be free morphemes. So this root cannot be used on its own because it comes from Latin, and it is not, it does not have meaning in in English, I'm sorry. So we can have a root that is not a free morpheme. It is a bound morpheme. So we have to use it a um, with a prefix in this case. Okay, we would have to find more examples, but this chapter is going to be quick, so I'll probably give you more examples for all of them just to review. But this, in this case, we can see that this is different. Okay, so this is something that you know. An affix is a vowel morpheme that can be added to the root. So this is the general term. We can talk about affixes, which are bound. See that we said bound. These are the definitions that I told you that you were, let's say, the difficult part of this, but not in the chapter itself, or the topic itself is not that difficult. It's just that we have to learn these terms. So for example, bound morpheme, remember, and free morpheme. A bound morpheme has to be next to another morpheme to have meaning. So affixes can be at the beginning of the root or at the end of the root, right? Added at the beginning or at the end. And they are bound because they don't have meaning on their own. So like pre, like in the, let me see, pre, predate, to predate, that is a word. So it has pre in it, right? And it means to date beforehand. And it is yeah, it's a prefix. But if I use like the word relationship, then ship is a suffix because it's added at the end, and it also does not have meaning on its own, because ship would not be, it can be the word ship, which would be a free morpheme, but let's say government. So govern comes from uh, uh, well, it's probably a Latin root. So, but we know the verb to govern, right? To govern. And then if I add government, then that is a suffix, right? I add it to the end, and it also means that it's changed to a noun. A verb changes to a noun. So to govern and a government would be another word, right? But it's made of um, two morphemes, meant and govern. And then we have compound words. I think that you guys already know a lot of compound words, and they are easy to spot. And it's made of two or more roots. Okay, so here we have more examples. The examples are very useful. So in the case of unkind, so we have un, which is a prefix. It goes before the other morpheme, and it means the contrary or not, right? So unkind means not kind. But we have it in one single word, let's say. But this word has two morphemes, right? I can divide it into un and kind. Kind is free and un is bound. Un does not have meaning on its own, but kind has a meaning on its own. Okay, so that way we're reviewing everything that we saw. Hopeful has two morphemes, hope and full. So full goes at the end of a root, like in this case, or of, let's say, of a morpheme. And it also means, um, okay, that one means full of, like joyful means full of joy, hopeful means full of hope. Um, and for example, we can also use with this root, instead of hopeful, the antonym, the contrary would be hopeless, right? So we have the same thing. Hopeful and hopeless are going to have suffixes. Hopeful means full of or that has, and hopeless means that it doesn't have. So it doesn't have hope. And again, less, even though it means something else, it's actually a a morpheme, but it's a suffix and it is bound. Because in this case, it is not the word less like in quantity, but it is an suffix in hopeless. Okay, now let's look at this next word. Why is my, sorry, it's I'm trying to show it with my mouse and it's, okay, okay, now. In the word replaying, how many, I'm going to give you some seconds. How many morphemes can you find? And what would they mean? Well, you have the answer there, but I wanted just to look at replaying. So we have re, which has a meaning, is to do again, and the ing changes the root into a gerund, right? And then we can use it in many ways. Gerunds can be used in many ways, like they are playing. So we can use it there, or we can use it as a noun. Playing is all he does every day. So we are changing the root playing, and the ing is going to make it into another form of a verb in this case. Okay. More examples of prefixes in preview. It means before, and it's added to the root view. So if we look at the word preview, it can be divided into two different morphemes, right? Pre meaning before and view meaning to see. In disagree, I have the verb agree, and then the morpheme this, which means also the contrary of agree. That's what it would mean, or not to agree in this case. Yes, opposite to agree. So two morphemes there in both cases. Preview, two morphemes. Disagree, two morphemes. Now, the other thing that we had studied, pre is a bound morpheme because I cannot use it alone. And this is a bound morpheme because I cannot use it alone. But agree is a free morpheme because I can use it on its own. And view is also a free morpheme. Okay, so that is what we have. For the people that just came in, that's what we just studied. And here we have examples of a suffix. So we have teacher, which can be divided in the verb teach, which is free, and which is bound, right? And means the person who performs the action. So a teacher is a person who teach. Um, let's see. A seller is a person who sells. A cleaner is a person who cleans. And also it's a liquid or some type, right? Um, a driver is a person who drives, etc., 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 right? So this one also has two morphemes, teach, which is free, meaning the person who performs the action, which is bound, and it goes at the end, it's a suffix. In happiness, the suffix ness turns the adjective into a noun. So we had seen that like in unhappiness. So ness means noun that it means this is another word and I'm turning it to a noun. So unhappy, it was an adjective. So two morphemes, happy is free, ness is bound. I can't use ness alone. Okay, and here we have some examples of compound words. Toothbrush, right, which you all know that is tooth and brush. So a tooth is one thing, a brush is another thing, but a toothbrush is another noun. It's another, let's say, another item, right? It's a kind of brush to clean your teeth. A laptop combines lap and, well, top, I'm not sure. Why? Lap, of course, because you put it in the lap. And the part of top, I don't know why top, because we can also say laptop computer. I'm going to look that up. A snowman is very easy. It's a man made of snow. So all of these have two morphemes and they are all free. I can use tooth and brush. I can use lap and top. I can use no and I can use man. So they are free morphemes that are placed together. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to eliminate this slide. Because, okay, this is talking something that we know, the parts of speech, right? And you guys all know that because you saw them in grammar, like nouns, articles, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives, right? Okay, so now we're going to divide bound morphemes. Remember that bound morphemes are the ones that have to occur next to a free morpheme. They cannot occur alone. So there are two types of bound morphemes. Those which change the category. Well, no, that's why we needed this one. It's just to review categories or parts of speech. So there are bound morphemes that are going to change the meaning or the lexical category of the word, like govern, which is a verb, and I have meant, and now it's a noun. Happy, which is an adjective, and I add ness, and now it's a noun, right? Happiness. So derivational morphemes are those that change the category. And they are many, many, many. So I can add, again, like happiness or a rider. Okay? So these are derivational morphemes because they change the category of the word from adjective to noun, from verb to noun. And then we have inflectional morphemes that are bound morphemes again. So these are two types of bound morphemes that do not change the meaning or the lexical category of the word. They only change the grammatical function. Other than they change grammatical function instead of type of word or lexical category. Okay, so let's look at some. These inflectional bound morphemes are a list that exists in English and it doesn't change. It could change. I could explain maybe. There's only one change that might happen, but let's look at this. So this is a fixed list and it cannot become bigger. So we have walk and walked, right? The ed means past tense, but it's still a verb. It doesn't change the category. Talk, the s is in third person, singular, right? And it's bound, therefore, because the s is another morpheme that indicates third person singular, but it's still a verb, okay? To make plurals, we use the S to make a plural word, but it's still a noun. The possession with the apostrophe S, it's still a noun, but in the possessive form, right? And comparisons like or the superlative est are going to be also bound morphemes, but they do not change the type, the category, or the type of word. They are still, faster is still an adjective, and tallest is still an adjective. Okay, so they change the form of the word or the how the word is used in the sentence, in the grammar, but not the category of the word. No, not the, yes, not the category. Yes, and the category is changed with derivational morphemes, and with inflectional morphemes, the category is not changed. Okay, and see another definition. That is the only thing why this chapter can be a little bit more challenging, but it's not a lot. We have allomorphs. So what allomorphs are exactly like allophones, which are variations of a sound, then an allophone is a variation of a phoneme. So we're not going to understand this before having the examples. So we have the article a, right? The article a means that the noun that follows is undetermined. It can be anything, right? Can I have a drink? I would like to have a cat, right? It's any cat, it's not determined. But when we have a noun that starts with a, a vowel sound, then we use an. But see that and an are exactly the same thing. They are still, uh, they're still, now I forgot, uh, I just said it, articles. There's still an undetermined article. but it changes because of the following sound. So for the undetermined article, we have two allomorphs. Sometimes it's a and sometimes it's an, right? So they are, see, it says, see, these two forms, and are actually allomorphs of the same morpheme, the indefinite article. They just have different pronunciations based on the following sound. That's pretty easy to understand. Okay, and this one, okay, I have two examples of morphophonemic rules, are those that specify which allomorph of a morpheme will be used in a specific phonetic environment. Now here we're going to see for the first time something that is not English or Spanish, and it's this example. So I'm going to read it. So in Arabic, there are regular plurals, like us, we have an S, marked with a single morpheme, and broken plurals where the root changes. The regular plural morpheme has different allomorphs based on the final sound. Okay, so this is the regular plural. Okay, it has um, both regular and broken. So this one is an example of the regular plural. The regular plural has, at least we're going to see two different allomorphs or two different ways of making the plural. So um, in this work, and we're going to read it like it is, right? Kitab, which is book. To make the plural, the word becomes kutub. So what are we changing there to make it a plural? See that it's completely different. What are we changing to make it kutub? Okay, we're changing the vowels. In kitab, we have two different vowels, and in kutub, we have two U's. So meaning that kitab is one book and kutub is several books, more than one book. So it's completely different from us, from the S in Spanish and in English. And in Jamal, which is camel, I changed this U, Jumul, and it means camels, right? And that is one way of making the plural. And then we have another way, and we have maktab, and then the plural is with makatab. Okay, no, makatib, I'm sorry, makatib. Maktab is one, and makatib is another one. Okay, so we can see here that the change, it goes in the, they're adding an A here. I'm not sure, maybe this was wrong where I took it, maybe that we have an I at the end, or actually, no, this is not the one that changes it. Maktab and I think that it may be maktib. So we have the change of the I, and Medina is a city, and Madinat. See, we would have to analyze it, but that's okay. What we're looking at here is a different way of making plurals, and that in Arabic, there are more than one way of making the plural. For example, in English, we have tooth and teeth, right? Goose and geese, meaning that the sound E or the double E in spelling is going to be another way, an allomorph of the plural. So we can make in English plurals with S or we can change two O's for two E's in spelling. So goose and geese, tooth and teeth. And there are other ways of making plurals, not just one. So in English, there are also different types of allomorphs for plural. Okay. Mhm. So it says that there's a rule that says whether e or at is used to make the plural based on the noun's final sound. Okay, I still didn't understand it, but that is the rule. It depends on the sound whether they choose one type of make one way of making the plural or the other way. Okay, this one is very easy for us to understand. Okay, so we're talking about the rules. In Spanish, we use an S to make the plural. Casa, casa. Amigo, amigos. But we use ES to make the plural when there's a final C in the spelling. See that this is spelling. It's different from other things that we have seen that is sound. But in Spanish, then we have these two morphemes, or meaning that they are allomorphs, right? One allomorph is S and one allomorph is ES. So we use the ES to make the plural when the noun ends in Z, okay? So if a noun ends in a vowel, the plural morpheme is S, okay? Amigo, amigos. If the noun ends in a voiceless consonant, such as T, D, and K, the plural morpheme is still S. Like in, well, here they made a mistake because it ends in a vowel, gato and gatos. Let's see if we can. A noun in Spanish that ends with a consonant. Well, I'm sure we can find, but in this case, like in we don't have another example. Okay, but if the noun ends in a syllable like S or Z, this is writing, right? The plural morpheme is ES. So casa, casas, luz, luces. I'm trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to look for that and I'll tell you later, like according to the rule in Spanish, how else can we make a plural? Okay, so we have two classes of words also that are content words, and these are the ones that you know: nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. Now, nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs can grow in a language. We have more nouns, more adjectives. We can create more verbs. We can create more adverbs, and an infinite number of more words. But then we have closed class words, and those are the ones that we call function words that have not a meaning on its own, but a function, and they do not grow. They already exist in English, and this is what I wanted to explain. Let me see. For example, pronouns. Okay, so theory says, right? Going to open it. Theory says that that closed, what was it? Okay, closed classes. Close class. Let's say close class. Let's say vocabulary, or not exactly. I'm going to check again. Close classes, okay. So close class words. Do not grow in a language. So let's take the example of pronouns in Spanish. Okay, so we have yo, tú, o usted, or vos, él, ella, and then we have nosotros, ustedes, y ellos, y ellas. Okay, those are the pronouns, the subject pronouns. Now, can someone tell me what is changing here? So these are the pronouns in Spanish that are not supposed to change because they are function words, right? They, in this case, pronouns substitute nouns. So we had already decided on which were the pronouns that we had in Spanish. But what is changing? A pesar de que se supone que no hay crecimiento o que no hay cambio, no, nadie se acuerda que es lo que está cambiando actualmente. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Okay, this is adding another pronoun, which is ellas. Okay, that is what is changing. Now, algunas, esto lo voy a decir porque es como una discusión, ¿verdad? Como interesante. Hay personas opuestas a esto completamente, que dicen que no, que no se puede, digamos que no se puede imponer que las personas usen palabras inclusives como ellas. A mí personalmente, bueno, y hay otras que los usan, ¿verdad? Mi hija menor lo usa. Y también como con nosotros, no sé, creo que también dice nosotros. Para muchos es un ridículo, a mí no me hace mucha gracia. Sin embargo, veo que hay una población de jóvenes en que está creciendo y creciendo. Tal vez en Limón no, tal vez es como más en San José y en como cierto tipo de gente, ¿verdad? Como en ciertas comunidades, pero si estas personas que están ¿verdad? O incluyendo leyes o como en el inglés, el they, como para una persona no binaria. Entonces, en lugar de he o she, las personas piden que se les hable que se les use el pronombre they, que en realidad es el plural, pero ahí se estaría usando de manera singular, significaría que también está creciendo una categoría que es cerrada, que se supone que no crece. Si esas personas, si digamos esto continúa, ¿verdad? No, que yo le veo la pinta como que va a continuar, más personas las empiezan a usar y luego esas personas tienen hijos y les enseñan de esa manera, entonces eventualmente podría cambiar, ¿verdad? Y el cambio es una característica intrínseca del idioma. El cambio siempre se da en los idiomas. Vea, si estudiamos inglés, de cuando inició el inglés, cuando se dieron las bases en el área de las islas, ¿verdad? Del Reino Unido, que fueron, y eso se los voy a mandar como de tarea, que fueron 3 grupos o tribus, podríamos, 3 comunidades que vinieron de otros lados y se unieron y ellos formaron como la base del inglés, uniendo sus diferentes idiomas. Y de ahí en adelante el inglés ha cambiado de tanto que no se puede entender el Old English. Ustedes, sí, ustedes son, es que a veces me pierdo de cuáles son los grupos. Bueno, ustedes lo han visto en la literatura, el Old English completamente diferente. Entonces, este tipo de closed class words se supone que no puede cambiar, pero puede haber una circunstancia en que cambie y como la que está sucediendo ahora con los pronombres. Okay, so let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so let's go back to derivation. So a closed class, we said that closed classes are function words like prepositions, pronouns, and that they don't change. Open class words, content words like nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs can change. So one way that this can be done is through derivation. We can add a derivational morpheme to a word and make endless new words. So any word that I have, I can add a derivational word morpheme and make a new one. So examples of derivation: beauty, beautiful; hope, hopeless; happy, happiness; kind, kindness; write, writer; teach, teacher; lace, I didn't know this verb. Lace, by adding a Y, it becomes an adjective, lazy. Strengthen, strengthen as an adjective. So strengthen, verb, strengthen, adjective. So we did this by adding ed, right? Because ed is also an ending for adjectives. Clean and cleanify, okay? So a verb, but it says that it's not very common. Pure, purify. This is the idea. Purify, yes, it is a very common word to purify a room. So that is derivation. But there are other other forms that we can make up new words. Oh, I have to, okay, here. Okay, I copied this, but I have to do something different before I send it to you. So let's copy this, what I already had in my Word. Okay, so how can we make up new words? This is neologisms are for by, okay, not, but these are not neologisms, I'm sorry. I'm going to look for neologisms. Neologisms, and I looked it up last night, now that I remember, and I didn't like the ones that it gave me. Uh, so when we make up a new word, a completely new word that doesn't have, like it's not a compound or no, it can be a compound. So we just have a need to make up a new word. Um, estoy muy chapa, disculpen. Okay, so if we need mm, if we need suddenly, because of our daily life, we need a new word, then we can do a lot of things. Okay, let's take this one. Like I said yesterday, I looked for some and I didn't find anything. So the definition is a newly developed or coined word that has started to fall into mainstream language. Okay, so a word that is new, that is, it begins to be used. Um, okay, Homo sapiens, a human being with an innate fear of missing out. So it comes from a combination of Homo sapiens and FOMO, which is a root of missing out, not to be there. This was Chugi, I think, and it was it became popular through TikTok. It is often used to describe members of older generations to try to keep up with trends, but don't are not able to do it. So if an older generation tries to let's say change their vocabulary or maybe their dressing codes, and it just it's bad, right? Um, Flexcation. Okay, a holiday where work and play is mixed to extend the vacation. So it is when you go somewhere for vacation, but you continue working. So you can work, because of course, a lot of people work from home now, right? So this one became a new word. Um, okay, this one, you might have heard this. This is very common in social media. When you fool someone, when you make another identity of yourself, a person who sets up a false personal profile on social networking for fraudulent or deceptive purposes. Okay, so catfish is someone who does that. So this is a word that was, there is a fish that is called catfish. I don't know if you know that. There is a fish like this, but this is has a new meaning, and it means someone who deceives. Live tweet, clickbait. Okay, hangry. I don't know if you um, known this one is the combination of being hungry because being angry or being in a bad mood because you're hungry. A mini moon is instead of um, in advance to a longer holiday to be taken a later date. Okay, it's like a small vacation, let's say, um, in advance of a longer holiday to be taking a later date. I don't know, like maybe happy event, have a pre-wedding. Okay, so This was more popular like when a couple is going to get married and they have a lot of things to do. So they take a short vacation before the wedding. That is the idea. A snowflake is a sensitive person, but it has its own meaning that has to do with snow, right? But these are new neologisms, okay, new words that are used that become popular. Let me see if I can have, okay, this one. This one has all the forms that we're going to study actually, but let's have okay, for example, brunch. Brunch is when you have, when you meet someone and you have like a late breakfast or an early lunch, or yes, breakfast and lunch combined. Let's say at 10, right? 10 is late to have breakfast and it's early to have lunch. Brexit was a combination also to show the exit of the British from the European Union. Um, okay, a laser is, okay, it's an acronym. Teleworking, okay, this is especially new in the pandemic. A meme is something new that started when when with social media, right? Or a GIF, even though it means graphic interchange format. We talk about a GIF. Okay, so anything that is a new word, but these new words can be made up in different ways. One of them, like I said, is through acronyms. Now, in social media and all that, I had all okay. In social media and everything that has to do with social media, this has been used a lot. But let's look at some old examples. For example, NASA is an acronym of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Radar, it comes from radio detection and ranging. Laser, light amplification by, et cetera, et cetera. This is a long term. So the only one that we know is laser, right? Which is an acronym. We already see FOMA, scuba, las personas que hacen, que bajan, ¿verdad? Bueno, que hacen scuba, que hacen, no me acuerdo cómo se llaman en español, buceo, ok. Es buceo en español, pero en inglés es scuba, and it means self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Entonces se refiere a lo que uno usa para respirar, los tanques de oxígeno y el set. Esto que lo conocemos muy bien, y ni siquiera sé cómo lo decimos, pero quiere decir, es un tipo de imagen, ¿verdad? Un ATM, que es un cajero automático, que viene de Automated Teller Machine. Wi-Fi, que es Wireless Fidelity. Entonces, aquí es donde vemos un montón de nuevos que se hacen por acronyms. For example, HTTP, which is used for computers, right? A GIF, like we said, CEO, we know this one, Chief Executive Officer, SEO, Search Engine Optimization, USB, Universal Serial Bus, that is the meaning. So OCD, that is shortening for obsessive compulsive disorder, PDF, etc. Okay, you get the idea. So we take the first letter of the words and we make another one that is shorter, and sometimes we can read it like YOLO, right? Which means you only live once. We can read YOLO, but we cannot read MIA. So there are different ways. For example, we can read ICE, or we can read RECOPE, que son acronyms. COPE, or we can read IMAS, but we cannot read, vamos a ver, quería uno en español. Un acrónimo que no podamos leer. Bueno, Fondo Monetario Internacional. Fondo Monetario Internacional, no podemos leerlo, tenemos que decir las letras. O bueno, la ONU sí podemos leerlo, pero el Fondo Monetario, bueno, el banco, ahora que hay algo, banco, el BCIE, el BCIE. No me acuerdo cuál banco es ese, pero no podemos leerlo. So there are two types, one that we can, but that's not, I'm not going to include that. Just for you to understand that a way of making words is by using an acronym. And I'm almost done, guys. Then we can blend two words or compound two words, but we are going to shorten one word. For example, we already saw some of these examples with the first one. So here in brunch, we can see that the BR is from breakfast and the UNCH is from lunch. So we eliminate part of both words and put them together. So we're going to have breakfast and lunch is brunch. A blog is the blend of a log, and to log is to write down, como llevar el control de algo. That's to log. I don't know if you've seen that. And web. So we have the B. Well, we eliminated, okay, we took the B only from web and we added it to log, and that is a blog, right? When you have a journal of information, which is online. This, I've heard this word, it did come like, it has become popular, ginormous, which is gigantic and enormous. Again, we have the two words, but they are not compounds. Part of them is shortened. Glamping, which means glamorous, and camping. So there are places that are very nice, but they are for camping. So camping with a lot of amenities, or a lot of very comfortable. A frappuccino, that comes from a frappe. A frappe means something that you put in the blender and make it like ice. And cappuccino. Workaholic, right, is the combination of work and alcoholic. Work is still there, but alcoholic is not there. An infomercial is a commercial plus information, right? So we have the words combined, but they are partially cut up. And we're going to see this in a second, which is another term. So that is another way of making new words. We're going to skip this one. Okay, clipping. Clipping is exactly what you do when you delete a word. And let's look at a couple here, and I'm going to copy it in the same clipping. Like in Spanish, uh, word formation, okay. Like in Spanish that we say refri instead of refrigerador. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples and I'll explain it and then I'll show you. So there are several types of clipping, but what we want are the examples. No, we don't need so much. Okay, I'm going to use just this. No, I don't like them. I'm sorry because last night I was doing that and I couldn't finish. But often it's very easy to do. But examples. Let me see if I can get just some examples. Okay. I don't want to copy these because they have this, but let's look at them. So a vegetarian is called a veg.
Vegetarian. Veg.
Veg. Forget about this one because it's not American English. A photograph is called a photo.
Photograph.
Can you take a photo or a picture?
Biology. Bio.
Bio for biology. A discotheque, which is called a disco.
Discotheque.
Ustedes ya no son de esas cosas de discotecas, pero era la forma de entretenimiento de sus papás y abuelos. When we shorten motorbike for bike, or also a bicycle for bike, a hamburger for burger. Very often people say burger instead of a hamburger. So let's order out, I want a burger. A caravan, which is a type of car or van, a car that has a lot of people. Telephone for phone, or this, which was the original word for bus, was omnibus. We don't know that. We don't know that this is a clipping, but it is. Refrigerator, we call it fridge or refri en lugar de refrigerador. Influenza, we call it flu. Now that we have now that we have so many types of flu and term. Un permanente en el pelo que era hacerlo rizado. En inglés se dice perm. This one is interesting. A public house is pub, but it is actually a bar in British English. To call your grandmother grandma instead of grandmother. Or what you say, profe instead of profesor. Gym para gymnasium. Okay, so it's clipping is any word that is shortened. Okay, and then with clippings, with two clippings, you make a blend. Okay, so I will finish this. Eponyms are things, or let's say brands, for example, brands of cars, or maybe brands of clothing that are called by the person, by a person's name, mainly like the creator. And that this is something also that I did not have examples. What I'm going to do is include in the PowerPoint a link for these last ones, which I did not have. Okay, so this is another way of making a new word. For example, let's see this one. Okay, so the definition is it's a word that comes from the proper name of a person or place. They can be based both in real or fictional people and places. So a word meaning that it's not a proper name anymore, but it comes from the proper name. So in this case, America comes from Amerigo Vespucci, who was a map maker. So the Caesar salad was created in a person who had a restaurant. His name was Caesar Cardini. So that is called the Caesar salad. A boycott. Do you know what a boycott is? Como por ejemplo ahorita Canadá, que los canadienses que no están viajando a Estados Unidos por afirmaciones que ha hecho Trump. Entonces es cuando no se ponen de acuerdo para hacer presión sobre algo. Eso es un boycott. Y the word names comes from this man. I don't know why. Fahrenheit, which is a measurement of temperature, comes from the person who created it or who worked on it. The zipper, this is something that we would not think, right? That the zipper is named after a person. Started as a branded name. Okay, I don't know. The cardigan also, which is a sweater. The sandwich is because of the Earl sandwich. See, this is something that we don't know, right? That the word sandwich is so simple. It comes from someone's name. Diesel also, el diesel also comes from a person's names. Okay, so nicotina also from the person whose name was John Nicot, and he sent power tobacco leaves and seeds. Okay, so that is the meaning of an eponym, something that is named after someone. For example, in brands, we have Dolce & Gabbana, we have Michael Kors, we have clothes by Carolina Herrera. All of those are eponyms because it's not their name, it refers to their creation, right? Like to the brand name. And let me see. There's one more. There's one more that I didn't include, and I forgot, but I'll include it. So this is the final one. Just the etymology is the study of words, the history of study words. I think you guys know that. But I missed one eponyms. Oh, yeah. When we call something, uh, when we call something by a brand. Okay, I'm going to say this in Spanish and we're done. Cuando llamamos un artículo con el nombre de una marca, que fue la marca, ¿me escuchan bien? Porque es que están la señora aspirando. Cuando tenemos una marca y llamamos a todas las otras marcas de ese artículo por esa marca. Tal vez los estoy confundiendo. Por ejemplo, Gillette. Se usa mucho o se usaba mucho que necesito una Gillette y es una navaja, pero de la marca Gillette. Y entonces se hizo como si la palabra Gillette o la marca fuera navajilla. Otro ejemplo, Kleenex. ¿Okay? Nosotros siempre decimos, me regala un Kleenex o no tiene Kleenex. Y Kleenex es la marca de esos pañuelos faciales, pero hay muchas otras marcas, pero le llamamos siempre Kleenex. Hay un montón que ni siquiera sabemos. Bueno, voy a buscar nada más porque no me acuerdo de más en este momento y ya terminaríamos. Entonces yo les voy a poner en esto que me faltaba un link que sea un buen ejemplo de eso. Por ejemplo, este en Eponym estaba bueno. Brand names. Brand names, no, es que no eran brand names. Vamos a ver si era brand names. No se llamaban brand name. Tengo que buscar cuál es eso. Pero me agarraron la idea, ¿verdad? Que usamos una marca para hablar de todas las cosas que son de esa marca. Otra que se usaba mucho, ya no tanto, pero era Cotex, que se usaba un Cotex, que es una marca de toallas sanitarias para hablar de todas las toallas sanitarias. Y así por el estilo. Pero bueno, eso se los adjunto. Ok, al final sí se hizo larguillo, como lo tengo grabando. Se los voy a pasar por YouTube. Y también termino el PowerPoint y se los envío. Ok, y más bien muchísimas gracias. La pereza de este tipo de clases es que hay poca participación, pero gracias por estar aquí. Y, ok, nos vemos a la puchica. Nos vemos hasta después de Semana Santa. ¿Verdad? Sí, la clase de ustedes es como tengo tantas, la clase de ustedes es viernes, entonces el viernes no tenemos clases, por eso es que no podíamos perder hoy. Y hasta después de Semana Santa nos veríamos. Yo espero podernos reunir. Creo que ese día es el día del funcionario, pero si es como por mí, yo no lo tomaría. Solo que hubiera un evento importante que mucha gente va a ir, pero de verdad que yo les agradecería si pudiéramos hacer una clase. No se puede hacer evaluación, pero sí podríamos repasar ir repasando algunos términos, algunas de las cosas que hemos hecho y empezar algo nuevo. Entonces, sí, sería hasta después de Semana Santa que nos vemos. Listos. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye, Professor.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. See you. Bye-bye.